President Bola Tinubu marks 74th birthday with grand gesture of a special fund for families of fallen heroes.
It's a day to give thanks to Almighty Allah, sparing our lives and making things easy.
Nigerian Communications Commission directs mobile network operators to compensate subscribers for poor quality service standards.
Christians converge to celebrate Palm Sunday. Messages of hope, love, and peaceful coexistence resonate.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on review of political parties convention, plus the one humanitarian, one poverty response system.
Victor, what time did you sleep last night watching the PDP convention?
Well, I didn't quite follow, but I slept late nonetheless.
Okay. Since last weekend, political party conventions have dominated the national conversation. For many observers, the series of activities represent a defining moment, one that reconfigures party leadership and offers early signals of readiness ahead of the 2027 general elections.
That's right, Demola, and for the ruling All Progressives Congress, the two-day convention held between March 27 and 28 was presented as a democratic process, with Nentawe Yewada and Ajibola Bashiru returning as national chairman and national secretary.
At the party's 8th national convention in Abuja, members of the National Working Committee were also returned, largely through consensus and affirmation, a method the party says was aimed at preserving unity.
And with the new National Working Committee now sworn in, expectations are high that they will steer the party's affairs over the next 4 years, working closely with President Bola Tinubu to consolidate its political agenda.
And for the People's Democratic Party, PDP, however, the story is more complex. A faction led by Abdurrahman Mohammed went ahead with its convention, insisting it had met all legal and party requirements despite ongoing disputes.
Recall, Ademola, that a rival faction associated with Kabiru Tanimu Turaki had earlier challenged the validity of a previous convention in court, a dispute that continues to raise questions about legitimacy and unity within the party.
So today on Good Morning Nigeria, we take a close look at the outcomes of these conventions, what they mean for party structure, internal democracy, and the road to 2027. Well,
we also turn our attention later on in the program to efforts at moving Nigeria towards sustainable pathways out of poverty through the one humanitarian, one poverty response system. I am Victor Azo, and this is Good Morning Nigeria. Welcome.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. I joined my colleague Victor to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria. We begin the news highlights, followed by newspaper review. Let's now join Comfort Amodo for the morning news. Good morning, Comfort. How comfortable are you this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning, Ademola and Victor. Well, I'm trying to be comfortable, although we have some disturbing news from Plateau State. As a result, the state government has imposed a 48-hour curfew within Jos North local government area, with immediate effect commencing from 12 midnight of 29 March to the 1st of April. Following the tragic security incident that occurred at Gariya Waye community, Angwan Rukuba, Sunday, the 29th of March. and this resulted in the loss of lives, while several others sustained varying degrees of injuries. In a statement by the State Commissioner for Information and Communication, Joyce Lawyer Ramnath, Governor Caleb Manasseh Mufwang strongly condemns this barbaric and unprovoked attack on innocent citizens and assures the public that all necessary measures are being taken to apprehend the perpetrators and bring them to justice. And now the citizens are being urged to remain calm and stay vigilant and cooperate fully with security agencies by providing any useful information that may aid ongoing investigation. Away from that, let's take a look at political report with Abdurrahman Mohammed emerging as national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. This follows his election at the just concluded PDP National Convention at the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abuja. His emergence came via consensus, where party members agreed that unity within the party supersedes any individual interest or ambitions.
Not as tendencies, not as factions, but as one united political party.
President Bola Tinubu has announced the dedication of his salaries from inception for a special fund to support families of fallen heroes and the injured ones in the Nigerian Armed Forces. The president, who announced this to mark his 74th birthday, enjoyed governors, National Assembly members, and other wishful donors to support the appeal fund.
I need to do on your behalf is to announce a special account to be created today from all the salaries that I've earned. The Accountant General to establish an account to fund those men and women who stand on the arms way.
At the National Mosque, prayers were hosted by a number of Islamic scholars and imams across the country who converged in Abuja to offer a special prayer session in honor of President Bola Tinubu on his 74th birthday. And a special prayer session featuring recitation of the Quran, prayer for the President and the nation was convened by the Special Advisor to the President on Political Affairs, Ibrahim Kabiru Masari.
If the leaders succeed, the masses too will succeed.
When you pray for the president, it's like you are praying for Nigeria because the president is the captain of Nigerian ship.
Across churches, messages of hope, love, and peaceful coexistence dominated conversations as Christians converge in churches to celebrate Palm Sunday. And that's commemorating the triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem.
Let us lift up ourselves and say things positively that, of course, that will lift up our nation. And let us show love to ourselves and also to our nation.
On the news is the Nigerian Communications Commission's directive to mobile network operators to compensate subscribers who experience poor network service below approved quality of service standards. This will be mainly in form of airtime credits based on subscribers' average spending and their presence in local government areas where service disruptions occur. In a statement by Nena Okoha, Head of Public Affairs, the Commission emphasizes that consumers who should not rather bear the burden of service failures when operators fall short of required performance benchmarks. And the NCC says the move reflects its consumer-focused regulatory approach aimed at improving accountability across the telecom sector, as telecommunications service these days power economic activity, social interaction, and access to digital opportunities. So when service quality is poor, productivity and commercial activities are affected. That's the news at this time, but good morning, Nigeria. We'll be back with Victor and Demola after this commercial break. Good morning.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Moribund medical infrastructure, undertrained and underpaid health workers. Just a few of the decades-long challenges that have bedeviled the Nigerian health sector for too long. But the story appears to be changing in recent times. Over the past few years, the Nigerian government has gone to the front lines of deficiency across the sector with a mandate for change to ensure that the Nigerian people get the world-class health care they deserve in the quality of facilities they have long demanded. I am Kayla Megwa. Join me as I traverse the front lines, conducting critical on-site analysis and examining not just long-standing challenges, but cross-sectional solutions proffered by those presently responsible for development in Nigeria's health sector. We locate the vital signs on the front lines every Friday evening on NTA Network.
You have no better friend and partner than Nigeria. Let this unveiling today be a call to conscience. Let our practitioners hold the line of truth. To the media, please inform with integrity and with a deep sense of patriotism. To our public officers, communicate with transparency. To citizens, please let us speak with empathy. Let us come together to become the voice of responsibility, the voice of the world that heals division, that inspires hope and drives development.
Evie, you look worried. What's going on?
My big cousin in the university might have to drop out of school. He can't afford his school fees.
Oh no, that's not fair. Wait!
What is it, Tomiwa?
I remember my dad talking about something called Nail Fund. He said it could help university students pay their school fees.
Nail Fund? What is that?
Hey, Captain Excellence! Do you also know about Nail Fund?
Absolutely, Tomiwa. Now Fund is a federal government initiative that aims to provide financial assistance to students pursuing higher education. Now Fund not only gives money for school fees, but even school allowances, called stipends. It's the government's way of keeping their promise that no child will be left behind.
Really? You mean this Tinubu government?
Yes, now. You see, Now Fund is a government loan that helps you pay for school, and you only start paying it back later, little by little.
Ha! It's a loan. Doesn't that mean my big cousin will be swimming in debt?
Not exactly. First, this loan comes with no interest. You only start paying back when you get a job. Even then, it will be just a tiny bit at a time.
My dad says it's just like what they do in other countries like America.
Wow! This is a great idea.
See? With a Now Fund, everyone can go to school even if you don't have money. Look at those smiles.
Wow! That's amazing. I am going to tell my big cousin right now.
Remember, Now Fund is here to help every young Nigerian get the education they deserve. No child should be left behind.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next is Newspaper Review.
All right, and Chukwudi Okoliobaja is here with us for the review. Good morning.
Victor, I am fully here. Thank you, Victor. How's the family?
Well, the family, they say they're fine.
Thanks to GSM. You can reach them anytime. Demo, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. And
always resplendently dressed, quiet, but always assertive of self. Sartorially. Go and look it up in the dictionary.
I like when you do this. You know, it makes you look bigger than you are. Anyway, let's start. And I'll begin with the leadership. And the leadership, well, quite a few stories on the front pages today. Of course, the front pages bear the mark of Mr. President's 74th birthday celebrations of yesterday, commemoration, if you may. Now, this one reads, INEC attends Wike-backed PDP convention. INEC attends Wike-backed PDP convention. And the other beside it is all politics this morning for the leadership. Kwankwaso joins ADC today. That's on page 4. All right, both stories on page 4. And then the Nation, I also have the Nation here. And the president speaks. Why my celebration is subdued. You want to find out? Get details on page 6 of the Nation. Ademola.
Oh, you're done?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I have the Daily Trust newspaper, and just like you said, it's all about the celebration of the president's birthday, and just above that, we have 2027 Kwankwaso Atiku Obi join forces against Tinubu. Yes, Chooks?
Yeah. Let's start with the president. First of all, we have to wish him a very happy 74th. It is not my.
No.
These days, what is the life expectancy on the African continent now? I don't think it goes beyond 54.
No. I think it's gotten to 68.
68?
Yes.
Those must be latest statistics.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
yes.
it is.
Yes.
Because of the various developments in the health sector and awareness.
Oh.
Yes.
That means by the end of the year, I would have scaled it by one year. You said 68.
Yes.
Chooks the boy will be hitting 69.
No, I mean for the women,
5.
for the women it's 68. For the women it's 68. For the men it's 67.
67.
Yes.
I'm doing well already. But that's not to say I have one foot in the grave, because I know you. You know. So, Mr. President, we should congratulate him. It is not easy in these times. With all the things we eat now in the name of modernity, longevity is no longer assured for the African. Some people tell you it's in our food. The things we import and eat, we're no longer eating from nature. Some will say stress, economic stress and all that. You know, a family burden, whatever it is. We should be happy that we really have got to 3 scores and 10. Okay? That's what I think.
And carrying the burden of the whole nation.
Yes.
It's not a joke.
But you know,
it takes the grace of God.
You know, when I heard, Emi Loko, is that what he needs to govern me? You see, just because it's your turn, is that all you need to be my president? Trust us. And I journalist now, I was vibrating. But having studied how far the man has come, Demola, if there is anybody that has prepared to rule this country, anybody at all, anybody, it is President Bola Tinubu.
Especially
to govern the country.
Someone
to rule the country.
You know, someone described him as an audacious leader.
He prepared. Give it to him. You don't have to like him. He prepared for this assignment from the things I've seen so far. And you know what is happening. This man is gradually moving Nigeria to what Nigerians put the adjective true before, true federalism. That's what he's doing gradually and all that. People don't know about it. But I'll still say I want him to do more in terms of fighting corruption.
That's why we need to pray for good health.
That is my view.
Good health, God's strength.
He'll get it by His grace.
Wisdom and understanding.
He'll get it by His grace.
So because the Bible enjoins us that we should pray for our leaders.
Yes.
So that we can enjoy peace and you'll be well with our nation.
And let's say to those warmongers on Facebook against Tinubu, do not malign your elder. It is un-African to say the things we say about people. That's not who we were. If you don't like me, if you don't like the way I do things, you can criticize it. That's what we do as journalists. But please stop being devilishly insolent. The things I see, they don't appeal to me. You know, I went to Sunday school and I was brought up by good parents. Anyway.
Well, Sunday was, yesterday was Palm Sunday, and did you carry any palm yesterday?
I'm a Baptist. We don't really do that.
Oh, you are a Baptist now.
Oh, did you where do you this thing? Not go pentafora.
It's a religious
Nobody
stance.
can engage in fruitful discussions with you. You must derail the train somewhere. Therefore, when did create you?
No,
you just said that God.
I'm just asking.
It's a religious stance. It's allowed.
Oh my God. Oh, I miss the piece of the newsroom.
Anyway,
I do.
Anyway, I mean, yesterday was Palm Sunday,
Yes.
and you went to churches. You see, palms and a message of love, peace, and unity.
Exactly. And just as we congratulated our Muslim brothers and sisters, very soon we are going to congratulate the Christians after the Passion of the Christ and resurrection follows. I mean, it is something that is epochal in the life of a Christian. And we say, at the end of the day, let it all percolate into unity among Nigerians, unity of the faiths. Because we observed the other time that it is perhaps not a coincidence that the Ramadan, and the Lent went hand in hand. Remember, the things that unite us were created by God. The things that disunite us were created by men.
Okay.
All right,
anyway, this is the last week anyway. So this is the last week for the Lenten.
Exactly.
I hope you are still fasting.
So
let's talk politics. We have two big political stories.
Exactly.
That's because one is INEC attends Wike-backed PDP convention. Bear in mind also that the APC had its convention over the weekend as well. And then the PDP, a faction of the PDP had its own, attended by INEC. And then Kwankwaso, who resigned from the NMPP he founded, is set to join the ADC today.
Yes. Quite interesting. Very, very interesting. That INEC attended Wike-backed convention does not automatically mean that other members of the PDP are not going to go to court. You know that we are court specialists, litigation.
That's already happening.
Oh, it's happening already. So thanks for completing that for me. Kwankwaso, interesting. First of all, the man has accepted that his NNPP is no longer, maybe a viable option for him.
And
Ebonam, who actually established that party, it's not Kwankwaso that established it. And Ebonam, the chairman of Shippers Council in those days, was actually talking the other time, is saying yesterday, it is not bad to go to the ADC, but you need to tell Nigerians what your program for them is come 2027. What are you laying out for them that will be different from what APC has done? Because that at the end of the day is going to get you votes. I think it's good analysis.
The time for that will come.
Oh, yes. Yes. No problem. We wish them all luck, and please, we must report everyone fairly. It is our creed. It is what we owe them.
Anyway, the way the Daily Thoughts put it is like Kwankwaso Atiku will be joining forces against Tinubu. It's quite interesting. Anyway.
I want to see how they jostle for who will be president and who will be the
big
vice.
Question.
That is where they are going to maybe have to work to clear a few landmines. But as I said, we owe everyone equal and fair reportage. And because I know the demolers of this world, it's a job, a task that must be done. It is. It is quite great to hear all this happening. Okay? So actually our headlines were taken by a splash of the president's birthday. If you move in a little, PDP will contest 2027 polls, says Wike.
Yes.
That to me is more interesting. PDP, is it local government and wards they will contest, or I don't know, it's a bit...
they will contest
but
state.
why
They'll contest state, they will contest for the presidency
Why
as
do
well.
you say so?
With all the pulling out from PDP...
What does it
doesn't
matter?
matter.
It doesn't matter.
No.
What does it matter?
It doesn't matter that a man gets
You-
into an
you
assignment
often-
with reasonable clout.
You often overlook the most important element in elections, the people. The people.
Okay.
That's what it is.
People power. You want to tell me about the ousting of Marcus, Ferdinand Marcos?
There will always be
in the Philippines
candidates.
in those days.
There will always
People
be
power
candidates.
worked. But with the decimation PDP has largely carried out against itself, I wish them luck.
Well, I wish you luck too,
Yes.
as we just round up this segment of the program. Thank you so much.
It will get better. Love your neighbor as yourself. You'll be okay.
Have a great day, Chukwudi.
Victor, you too.
Now, Good Morning Nigeria will begin conversation for today, of course, which focuses on the conventions held at the weekend after this break.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Heartburn is caused by stomach acid rising. Gaviscon Double Action neutralizes this and forms a barrier to stop them rising for up to 4 hours. Gaviscon.
The Renewed Hope Initiative RHI presents the RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow. This national competition is in 3 categories. The household category is a tree planting competition amongst 11 frontline states in northern Nigeria. Each participating household in Adamawa, Borno, Bauchi, Gombe, Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, Yobe, and Zamfara states will plant a minimum of 1 tree to qualify, with a video evidence of before and after the tree planting exercise. 20 million naira will be awarded to the best household. Submission deadline is 20th December 2026. Community category will see local governments, local communities, schools, and NGOs reclaim and transform degraded or abandoned areas such as dump sites, landfills, parks, and their likes into green, vibrant gardens, parks, and eco-friendly spaces. 50 million naira would be awarded to the overall best community group. Deadline for submission is 15th July 2026. State category will have all states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, excluding Enugu State, have a chance to address the growing threats to environmental sustainability and cleanliness. States will be judged based on the number of trees planted on major roads and inner streets and how clean they are. 100 million naira will be awarded to the best performing state. Already, Enugu State has 100 million naira for being RHI's model green state due to its greenery and cleanliness. Video evidence must be submitted by participating states on or before 20th December 2026. All entries must be directed to RHI Office, State House, Abuja, or email rhi.greenchallenge@statehouse.gov.ng. RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow.
Stay with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. To begin our conversation on the review of political parties' convention, here is a background report put together by Joseph Osen.
The 2027 general election is drawing nearer. Politicians and political parties are aligning strategically to not just position themselves at the forefront, but also win the hearts of Nigerians. The National Electoral Body, INEC, has issued guidelines to the registered political parties on the conduct of primaries, election of party candidates, and political campaigns, among others. In compliance, some of the political parties have already held their national conventions. The All Progressives Congress (APC) held its elective convention on the 27th to the 28th of March, while that of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) took place on March 29th. At the APC 8th National Convention, more than 8,000 delegates participated in the exercise that renewed the mandate of Professor Nawate Yelwada as the national chairman of the party, and 29 other members of the National Working Committee were returned.
Let me assure this August gathering that I fully and completely accept this mandate with a full understanding of the weight of history, the expectation of our people, and the urgency of this moment.
As a state man and a political leader, I believe in a credible opposition. One can challenge, question, and help refine policies.
On the other hand, more than 3,000 delegates of the People's Democratic Party converged on Abuja for the party's national convention that witnessed the election of new party officials via consensus. Abdulrahman Muhammad emerged as national chairman. He promised to unite the party. But the crisis in the PDP is far from over, as the Kabiru Turaki-led faction of the party, few hours to the convention, held a National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja, promising to fight back as he head to the Supreme Court in a bid to reclaim the leadership of the party.
That for us in PDP, all hope is not lost.
Meanwhile, the African Democratic Congress has fixed its national convention for April 14, 2026. So far, it was a successful convention for the major political parties in Nigeria. But the questions remain: are the internal party wrangling over? And will this convention usher a path to reconciliation and position them to victory come 2027? These are the questions guests on Good Morning Nigeria will try to provide answers.
All right, many thanks, Joseph Osen, for that background report. Some would say it's a tale of two conventions. Anyway, we begin the conversation here by introducing our guests here in the studio. And let me start by introducing Abiodun Adeniyi, professor of mass communication and a public affairs analyst.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let me also welcome Jide Ojo, who is also a regular public affairs analyst. Some call him the Asorogbayi of Africa. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Actually, that's his chieftaincy title. but today, he's not even dressed in the normal...
I think he's dressed after
today
weekend.
He's from the South.
Yes,
he's from the South.
I'm from Nigeria.
Anyway, Jide, good morning. Good to have you again.
My pleasure.
Now, I'm sure that you followed the activities over the weekend, especially the political, activities, the convention of the APC and the PDP. How would you describe the conventions?
Peaceful. I think that's the major takeaway from me. There were no ugly incidents, no deaths, no casualty, no bomb, no suicide bombing of any sort. So it was peaceful, but it was also predictable. Days, weeks before that, the two parties have adopted what they call consensus, mode of election. And in consensus, what we say in local parlance, carry go. People who are already in office were just asked to continue. And because it's one of the requirements of the Electoral Act, Section 84, which talks about the mode of party primaries and conventions. So they chose the easier option, which is the consensus, which is more like giving automatic tickets to those who have aspired. And so to that extent, we should also understand that this is taking the party back to the members.
because the convention is the highest decision-making organ of any political party. In fact, there are two types of convention. We have the elective and non-elective convention. The two, both that of APC and PDP, were elective convention, which is why you hear the saying that while APC have held 8 conventions since their registration in 2013, they are only holding the 4th elective convention. So 8 conventions, 4 elective, 4 non-elective. And for PDP, I think it's 106 or thereabout. But this one that was held yesterday, this morning, was also an elective convention. But as I said, it's more like a coronation of sorts. People already knew. I won't say. Let me head a bit. When I say it's coronation, I mean it in the context that the winners already know themselves. But because the law also requires that there must be an affirmation, that you just don't do Baba Sokwe behind the scene and then you inaugurate and everybody takes their role. You still have to bring it to the fore, because the convention, like I said, is the highest decision making. And the reason why they have to make it a delegate system is because it is presumed that they have hundreds of thousands or millions of members, and all of them cannot converge at the same time. So, which is why you see in APC, they have 8,453 delegates that came. The PDP also have about 3,000 delegates that came. Because if you look at their register, they possibly are in millions. So they have to use the delegate system to choose who to come. But to the extent that it was a consensus arrangement, no shock, no surprises. And now the National Working Committee have the mandate of the party to now carry out programmatic activities. And it's going to be a roller coaster of sorts. Ademola, look at it this way. This time next month, party primaries will have commenced from April 23 to May 30th. Right now, all the political parties, 21 of them in Nigeria, are in the process of revalidation and registration of new members because of the new provision in Section 77/4, which now require that you have to submit a digital membership register. So, and that digital membership register must contain your NIN, your picture, your almost all information about your address, polling units, ward, down to your name and all of those. So, which were not captured ab initio when members were registered. But now, if you are going to join a party, they will demand for your NIN registration, your pictures must be available, and all of those details. So that's why they are calling it revalidation and registration. And that is ongoing. In fact, it was a tug of war between the IPAC, that's the Interparty Advisory Commission and Council, and INEC, as well as National Assembly, because of the time limit that they have to do this, provide this digitized membership register. INEC has listened to them, has extended the time, so they now have up to May 10 to submit that register, because they have to submit 21 days to the time they want to do their party primary. So by and large, it's a busy time for political parties, and I think one of the reasons they also chose the consensus option is to save time and to make it less rancorous. Because if you throw it open, assuming 4 of us are vying for chairmanship, one person will emerge, but there could be grievances, there could be litigations and all of that. But with the mode of primary, election they have chosen, it is nobody will go to court over this, because it is assumed that the approach is less litigious and more, it spreads it makes all the aspirants who are already pre-selected from their different zone, because it's also a product of zoning. So the Southwest, for APC, they have already zoned secretary to Southwest. So Ajibola Bashiru, senator from Osun, continues. The chairmanship was zoned to North Central, which is why Professor Nentawe, who has been elected by national neck of the APC since July last year, has been in office, now have a 4-year mandate. So that zoning arrangement has made it less contentious for those who want to aspire. But going forward, I think we hope to see how they will perform on the field because they have their work cut out for them.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jide Ojo. Before I get to Prof, I understand that our third guest from our Lokoja studio has joined, and let me introduce Hamza Aliyu, who is the Executive Director, Initiative for Grassroots Advancement in Nigeria. A pleasure to have you join us on the program.
For having me again. It was a pleasure being here.
Now let me get to Prof. Given all that has happened, from where you stand, what does this say, this moment, what does this say about internal party democracy in Nigeria?
Well, I think the process we witnessed in the last few days is a routine, more like a routine process, something that is statutory, stages that, or exercises that they have to fulfill in the build-up to the party primaries and the election itself. And it's also gratifying that the parties are complying. They're trying to put all the pieces in the jigsaw as appropriately as possible. That's salutary, no doubt. But again, to your question on whether internal democracy is functional, that can be contentious really, because I agree. I know there are two ways in which party officials could emerge. It could be elective. It could also be through consensus. When it is elective, it means that there's a contest. But when it is consensus, it means that there has been an agreement amongst people. There may be no dissenters, but it also tells me that some superior powers must have been responsible, for the selection, or the process leading to the emergence of the consensus candidates. For internal democracy, we could say that it's very peaceful. There are no rancors, there are no post-election crises where there will be litigations in court. Might be good for the party, but what does it do to the soul of the party? In the line in which we want to see democracy, where we expect ideas to conflict, because it is through the conflation of ideas that we're going to see an improved idea, a quality decision-making process. But when everything is coming out of, more like a decision from power that is above, or a traditional kind of arrangement, a KBAC mentality sort of framework, where a decision may not be challenged because somebody is exercising his preference, for one candidate over the other. They may not go to court openly, but there could be some resentment, quiet resentment, that may not all go well again for the spirit, the soul and spirit of the party. That's one angle, another angle of looking at it. But in terms of peace, in terms of stability, it might be okay for the parties to feel satisfied that they have done the convention successfully, and they have officials that will run.
But is that peace? You mentioned
that's the problem.
Peace.
That's what I'm
PDP.
saying. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm coming to that. But even the peace we are talking about is only applicable, in my own opinion, to the APC, because they are the incumbents and will have a strong mechanism from the top to the bottom in terms of governance, in terms of administration, and in terms of control, because they are in power. The president appears to be in charge. But the PDP we cannot say the same thing. Court cases are still on, threats are still on. There's still substantial anxiety on whether we can ever have peace in PDP. And of course, the ADC is also coming with its own convention now, another 2 weeks, like the background report said. As it were, it does appear to be as if the ADC appears to be the only party that may present a robust contestation, a robust disposition to the democratic process in the circumstance that we are in. Because there's no challenge from PDP, as it were. And I don't see any other party challenging the APC, as it were. But for the ADC, the challenge is likely going to be contextual. To be consequential. And that is the one that will remind us again of what democracy should be all about. And that's what will make it interesting. Because if we do not have some back and forth.
It's not only the ADC, we have other parties as well.
No, okay, we do respect to other parties. I'm just talking about vibrancy. I'm talking about vibrancy and robustness, And we shouldn't pretend about these things. That's why questions have been asked in the past. Whether we need multi-party democracy, actually. Or whether, yes, we need multi-party democracy, but how many parties should we really have? And you could find out that in the Babangida transition period, it just zeroed in on two political parties, a little to the left and a little to the right, conservative and whatever, however you want to take that. But, if you look at the historical trend of Nigeria, it seems to fit that two-party arrangement system. And look at, again, all the elections we've had from 1999 up to today, apart from the one we had in 2023, only two parties, have really been consequential in terms of showing, only until 2023. But coming forward from 2023, we are seeing a consolidation back into the two-party system. Again, we do not know what we're going to happen in 2027, but the signs are already there that the potency likely going to be around two parties. But I don't see PDP posing a challenge because of the perennial crisis that they are presently locked in.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for your opening contribution there. Let's join Hamza, who is also joining us via Zoom. Okay, now, Hamza, we have listened to the contribution of both Jide and Prof, and what they have described the last weekend convention as just consensus and a predetermined outcomes for the two parties. From your own observation, what can you say? Because, like Prof said, it's only ADC and other parties that they are looking up to present us with a robust, convention. What's your perspective concerning that?
I think, despite the fact that it has become a norm for us to expect that political parties conduct their conventions, it is very important because we have seen the effect of not having a so to say, a formal convention, not having a proper convention electoral system. We have seen people lose elections because of not having a legal convention for everybody. Very big thing. No matter how routine it looks, no matter how it looks, we should be very particular about whether a political party conducts its national convention very well. And because constitutionally, political parties are the only vehicle we can do our leadership selection in terms of our democracy. It's something that really should matter to everybody. And of course, we've seen what the APC has done recently. We've seen the PDP, what they have done, and we're expecting other political parties to do the same. And we also hope that from these conventions, now that the searchlight is on these political parties, we also hope that these conventions will not be as disputable as it had been in the last two cycles of elections. And yes, political parties are beginning to understand that citizens are and put the searchlight on their political parties and what they do at the conventions. And also, we're beginning to look at laws that put a searchlight on those conventions. And so they're beginning to take it very serious. So it's something that we all should, all of us who are in this electoral system should also be very careful and very watchful of what political parties do, because at the end of the day, these actions that seem routine could have a disastrous impact for us coming towards the election itself.
Thank you very much, Hamza. Sharp. So let me get back to Jide Ojo, and we are still talking about the parties. And I'm wondering if the consensus, which you have, it appears you paid glowing tribute to the consensus arrangement, and I'm wondering if you can describe it as a tool for stability or a mask for the elites to take control?
I didn't glorify or glamorize consensus option. I only explained as an analyst why I believe the parties chose the consensus, because it's easier of two options they have. Even ADC, the one that they are going to have on April 14, is also through consensus. Because when there was indirect, before the consensus was put in our electoral 2022, it used to be indirect method that was most adopted. Very few political parties chose direct method because it's actually very cumbersome if you want to do direct convention or congress or whatever. So it's a, when you look at party administration, it's not a walk in the park. You are dealing with people with emotions, people with aspirations, people with agenda, people with vision. Even this APC, did you know that people died in Idore local government when they were doing their local government congress?
That's in
Two
Ondo
people
State.
in Ondo State. Yeah. 2 people died. The former chairman of APC in Ondo State was beaten black and blue on the eve of that local government congress. Why? Because of certain interest that wanted a predetermined outcome. So what has just been done, to the best of my knowledge, is choosing the lesser of two evils and the most convenient one for them, giving time constraints. Even though the Electoral Acts did not tell any party when to have their congresses and convention. What section, I think section 223 of the Constitution says is that there must be regular elections. And the regular election means every 4 years there must be renewal of the terms of the drivers or administrators of the party. Unfortunately, even for APC, and I've said this on several media platforms, APC just have a piece of graveyard. In 13 years of registering APC, they have had about 8 national chairmen, when ordinarily they should be having 4, at least every 4 years. You know,
this should be the 4th one.
This should have been, 4th one, by and large. But you find out that if you look at from Abdullah Adamu, who superintended 2023 for President Bola Tinubu, was the chairman at that time. That's what I mean. From that time, Abdullah Adamu shortly resigned under certain circumstances with Omishore. Then Abdullah Ganduje was brought on board. It was not through convention. It was a internal arrangement. Then Ganduje stayed 2 years. And then all of a sudden we had Ganduje has resigned. And then they brought in Nentawe. It was not at the convention. It was so in between 2023 and now, APC had had 3 chairmen. It tells you that all is not well at the top echelon of that party. Prof spoke to certain powerful interests determining the barometer of even the consensus arrangement. Because all these old zoning, you are talking of zoning, then you are talking of micro zoning. Because when you say you have zoned, it should then mean that in each of those zones, at least it's only in the Southeast you have only 5 political parties. There should be contestation for who will now come to Abuja to represent the zone at the National Working Committee. I don't know whether you are getting my drift. For instance, Even if you say you zoned the national chairmanship to North Central, it should not be only Yewada that should be the candidate. Before this weekend, there should have been a contest among the 6 states. Whoever aspired to be national chairman should have been elected from that zone. That would have given some semblance of contestation and internal democracy. But situation where you say you zoned to the you have zoned, but you have also further micro-zoned to a particular state and particular individual. In fact, in one of the South Side states, I think there were grouses about why are you returning this person? Why not allow some of us to also buy from and test our popularity at the zonal level? But political parties will do what they have to do because their own focus is interest. And what is the interest? To win. And to win elections. And like I said, there is no time to check time. They possibly felt this is the best alternative, the best option for them to quickly get it over and done with so that there could be proper management of the party going forward with elected, because whether it's a magisterial consensus or direct or indirect primary, the indirect method, the bottom line is that as of today, once, and they have already inaugurated those who won at the various conventions. So they are not even scheduling any other day. So they have already inaugurated them. It is assumed that by today, being the first working day after those conventions, these people will be in their offices to run the affairs of the party. And they have a lot of work to do. Because even in the prelude to the primaries, you are not going to just have the primaries. The National Organizing Committee, the National Organizing Secretary have his work cut out for him. He has to now determine who goes where to conduct primaries and who are the members of the committee, how much will be needed to conduct the election, what is the nomination fee and expression of interest. All of that will still be determined. And there's just barely 3 weeks before you need to push that. So people, and like I told you, they are still doing registration and revalidation of their membership. Those are not mean tasks for the new executive. So I think they just decided to choose the less contentious option, not necessarily because it's the best, but like I said, if you want to really have a contestation, even if you are not having it at the Abuja, at the convention level, at the zonal level, there should have been, people should have been allowed to buy forms. So there are 6 states in each of the zone except Southwest. In fact, 7 states in the Northwest. People in that zone, whether they zone to you publicity secretary, 3-5 people can buy form and vie at that level, at that zonal level, and whoever wins then comes to Abuja to get affirmed, even though it's affirmation they are going to do at the convention level. But we didn't see all of that. Everybody just since it's a consensus, and these are the people that are already at the end of affairs before this convention, just allow them to continue, whether they are good work or bad work. But I wish them well. The most important thing is that we are here waiting and watching to see how they deepen democracy, how this will impact on the preparation, conduct, and success of 2027 general elections, which is in about 9 months now.
Thank you very much, Jide. Prof, I mean, you just had Jide's analysis there and what you said earlier. With all this development of, consensus leads, predetermined outcomes and all that, where do we go from here? What does this imply for our democracy?
For me, I think our democracy is still growing, although quite a number of people may not agree. It's still growing, but the crisis we have really is because we've not been able to separate our politics from our economics. Our politics is still steeped in economics, where materialism predominates, where the ability to distribute favors, to control resources, still determines who wields political power. And again, if you want to break it down, you'll be talking about transactional politics. the more powerful you are, the more likely you are able to have influence over the mass of the people, or maybe the critical section of the political elites, determined by your financial power. And if you don't have raw financial power, you must have strong political power where favors can be distributed. This may not be the making of individuals who are so distributing it, but that's the overall political economy where we are steeped in. But again, you can also look at it from the point of, if you look at from 1999 up to now, some of the party chairmen that we have had, we did not mince word about this, have been determined solely by the president. And of course, this will be justified by politicians and political parties, that the president needs to choose the person that he can work with. From Obasanjo, you remember the story of Obasanjo going to the house of Audogbe and eating pounded yam, and you remember what happened thereafter. Even up to the time of, who was that? President Buhari as well, how Adam Soshomole, for instance, was shoved aside, just like that, through some kind of imprecise court case. And now again, we are seeing it happen somehow, because the stories we had about the exit of Abdullah Tamu was because say again?
Well, he said it was ill.
Well, yeah, there will always be some legitimate explanation. But the story we had was a different thing. Again, we are not judging individuals involved. We are also saying, we are importantly saying that this is how the system works, But it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right because it seems to be the most predominant reason why these things are happening the way they are happening. In some other parts of the world, we also see individuals calling the shots, maybe political power holders, or maybe people who are also wealthy, billionaires, call the shot in different ways, even if they are not interested in politics. So it happens in other places. But we are saying that in our own system, it's still predominant, and I don't know when we're going to move slightly away from there, so that some other things can be determinants of who wields power at the level of the political parties.
Prof, I want to ask. Okay. I just want to ask the issue of these consensus and predetermined outcomes. Doesn't it affect the outcome of the general elections if the person that was picked is not the candidate of the people?
Yeah, of course it will rub off, and that's why we're talking about the soul of the party being affected. Because ordinarily, the political parties should be superior to all candidates that is emerging on this platform. But we're seeing the reverse now, where individuals are more powerful than the political parties. Because political parties are supposed to have principles, ideologies, around which governance framework should revolve. But where they are not strong enough, of course, the individual will now override the political parties, and it's an anomaly in an ideal democratic system, because individuals emerge on the basis of platforms, and those platforms should have been ingrained in these individuals.
So how do we correct the anomaly?
It's a process. We are still developing. Our democracy is developing just like every other thing around us. But are we moving fast enough? I would say no. But are we moving at all? I would say yes. And that's why we'll keep talking about the solution to problematic democracy. It's more democracy. Because God forbid, if we lose it, it will take us millions of years backwards. And again, that's why we keep talking about some kind of reorientation, conscientization, the creation of right awareness, so that we actually have a common understanding of how we can grow the Nigerian nation as it is. But we cannot grow the nation if leadership is leadership is still a problem. But how do we grow leadership as well, the quality of leadership? Through the political party system. But if we fail to grow the political party system by allowing, the ideal internal democracy to function in those places, you don't expect quality leaders to also emerge from that process. Political parties are institutions around which democracy grows and thrives. So we need to be mindful of this so that desired progress can be achieved.
Thank you, Prof. Now let me get back to Hamza. And I'm asking, could you think that the party membership at the grassroots level would feel included in these processes? And if not, should Nigerians be worried going into 2027?
That is a very good question, because coming from what Mr. Jide said, sitting on a keg of gunpowder, because when you take the consensus route, it means that everybody has to agree. Once you say everybody has agreed, the question will now be, at what point did we all agree? And so there are a lot of, you can hear a lot of backdoor disturbance about the process that led to this particular convention, especially with the APC. But as it may be, we have to accept that these political parties have done what they need to do, that they have not done anything against the law until somebody can prove that there was something that they did that was against the law. So a lot of their members at the grassroots are feeling disenfranchised, but of course nobody wants to rock the boat for now. Nobody wants to change a winning formula, and so you are hearing this disquiet behind the door, behind the walls, and any other contest hearing is just something that can be handled within the political parties. Now, going forward, how is this going to affect our elections? Again, conventions are based entirely on the party's constitution, not mostly on the Electoral Act. But as we move towards selection of candidates, you will now see that the Electoral Act comes in. How the party selects its candidate will go a long way to determine how the election will play out. And we're seeing that if the political parties do not the testing ground for the selection of their candidate and they don't get this right, it means that they could try to do the same thing going towards the selection of their candidate, and that could have disastrous effect for us when it comes to the election. I understand and I hear when Prof says that we're still a democracy. The problem with our own democracy is that, or the problem with that logic is that our elections or our party democracy is a reflection of who we are as a people. We have come to understand that politics is transactional, like Prof said, but in every climb, in most developed climes, politics is transactional at this level. At selection of candidate level, yes, it's transactional. If you look at the American elections, you see that it is the person that mobilizes the most resources that gets the party's candidate most of the times. And so you see that it is transactional. But where we differ from them is it is not transactional when it comes to the electorate who are going to vote. You do not buy electorate vote. So election, we are hoping and praying very hard, because the weakest link in our democracy so far has been the political parties. Their actions or inactions has always come back to behind when it comes to moving forward in our political dispensation. So we're hoping and praying that these political parties and these generations have learned one or two things from what has happened in previous conventions. It's a good thing that we're seeing that they are doing it in the right or in the way that they say they will do it, because according to their constitution, this is one of the ways they say they will do it. It's a good thing that it's being televised. People are seeing it is open. But the issue is going to be if they keep building this resentment within their politicians, within their members at the grassroots level, who feel that they are being disenfranchised. For example, there was a cry within the APC that Kogi, for instance, you've zoned to North Central. Why should any other state contest for it? And I like how Ojide put it. Why is it that we did not see any contest? Because for you to have a consensus means that they were aspirants to that particular position, and all the aspirants came together and all agreed that this person should go for it. We didn't see that. All we saw was zoning and micro-zoning, like Jide put it. And it's really going to cause problem. It may not cause problem in this election going forward, but it will cause problem going after this election. How are the politicians going to feel, especially at the grassroots level? How are they going to take it? So I'm praying very hard that most of our political parties have learned a thing or two from what has happened before.
Thank you very much, Hamza. They have learned a thing of two from what has happened before. Jide, you listen to what he just said now, that most of these at the conventional level, that is mostly transactional. And it's when it gets to the general election now that, that cannot be done. Now, let's be specific now when it comes to the issue of PDP, the conflict or internal crisis within that party seems to have, different themes and different tunes, which is mostly causing a major rift within the party.
Unfortunately so. Now, this is what we need to also put in the public domain. When my colleagues on the panel, Professor Adeni and Hamza, when they were talking about transactional politics, transactional politics is not just about exchanging money. It's about who controls the levers of power. And that's why every president cannot allow party leadership to emerge without its imprimatur. And that's what is also happening in PDP. PDP has had 2 conventions in about 6 months now. One was held in November, another in Ibadan. Another is what is it all about? If the 2 camps are claiming that they want to redeem the party, they want to bring the party out of intensive care unit. But what they are doing is basically to even worsen the situation. I thought that after the appeal court decision, that rather than one of the party going ahead to fix date for convention, what should have been agreed from ab initio was to have a reconciliation and the 2 factions deciding on when to have their convention, which will now be like, okay, let's sheath our sword, let's present a united front. The court has made a pronouncement. But unfortunately, you can see the scenario. One of the factions has run to Supreme Court. The other faction has gone ahead to have the second convention. But what is the end game? The end game is control of the party machinery, hierarchy, leadership. Because right from now, and PDP is working on a very tight rope. And I'm afraid if care is not taken, PDP may suffer a collateral damage of what happened to APC in 2015 or 2019, when court made a pronouncement that APC does not have candidates in Rivers and in Zamfara. And the only election that was recognized was that of the president. So, because they didn't follow due process. Remember also what happened in Plateau in 2023, where the court made pronouncement that PDP does not have structure in Plateau State. And as a result of that, 16 members of the Plateau State House of Assembly lost their seats. Some House of Reps members, even senators.
But the governor remained. So
only the governor managed to escape. Now, I'm saying this. Yesterday when we saw what played out at the Velodrome of Moshood Abiola Stadium, I was looking at it. Peradventure, what can save PDP is if the wicked faction gets recognized by the Supreme Court. That's the saving grace they have now. Because with the way the 2 factions have dug deep, the Supreme Court, we don't know at what point, will determine who the authentic faction is. If by that time, they now said the Abuja convention that was held today, was invalid, and the one of Ibadan, meanwhile, the one of Ibadan does not produce any candidate, or they produce parallel candidate, it becomes messy. I'm not sure whether politicians are risk takers anyway. But I'm just trying to wrap my head around how much you pay for nomination fees that you may end up losing. How much you pay for campaign that you may end up losing. I remember what Akwa Ibom State Governor said about 9 months to 1 year ago when he defected. I am not precise about when he defected to APC. He said, Governor Moyano said, I'm not afraid of winning. my re-election. He said, I'm only afraid of losing my victory at the court. If at the end of the day, the faction that produced me is not the faction that is recognized by the court, and the election have failed, then you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand, which is the crisis of confidence that PDP has put itself.
That led a lot of people to move.
Exactly, because now you are going to be looking at, if I stay with the Wike faction, what if the Supreme Court says the Ibadan Convention? Because what the Makinde faction are laying claim to is that the Supreme Court has said that issues around party administration is an internal affairs.
Yes.
And so if it's our internal affairs, you cannot then tell us who and when we should have our convention or who should be present. So the argument being canvassed by the two factions, well, the luck Wike faction has is that INEC was there yesterday, so which means that some legitimacy, because they were not there at the Ibadan Convention. But what I'm saying is that it's too much of a risk, which is why by tomorrow now you will see another level of defections, because everybody wants to be in a place where their other resources that they want to invest in this election will not be lost. So if care is not taken, and this is why I said the consensus option and all the intrigues and the permutations that went into it is about control of the levers of power at the national level. Because three positions are very key. Let me land on this. 3 positions are very key in the National Working Committee now. The National Organizing Secretary. People don't look at that position as being powerful. But it's about the most powerful position when it comes to party primaries and nomination. Then the chairman of the party and the secretary of the party who will endorse the nomination forms. So
what about the legal advisor?
Oh, legal advisor, you can discountenance with the does PDP don't not have legal advisor? They sack their legal. One faction sack the legal advisor. I'm not making like every position matters, but I'm saying the most important. People don't look at National Organizing Secretary because they are very quiet, but they are the ones that will determine who goes where, who forms part of a committee. Then you know let me put this out there. There's something many parties are using now. Because of the consensus and the direct primary option, they're now using the screening committee to weed out those they don't want to win nominations. So they will now find a very clever way to say endorsement. If you want to stand as an aspirant, you must get endorsement across local government or ward. So if you don't get the number of endorsement, then they will say you are not qualified.
All right, Jide, we don't have a lot of time on this conversation. Prof, let's quickly get your perspective. Based on the conventions as we have seen them, would you say that these political parties are preparing to govern, or they are ready to govern, or simply preparing to win elections?
I think it's more of the latter. Only very few of them that get to power actually prepared for it. It's just about grabbing power, and sometimes when they get there, they begin to go back and forth, look left and right, trying to design what they want to do. And that's again the problem of our democracy. People are not preparing. They are not preparatory. It is just power for the sake of it, power for material progress. Because material progress actually come quickest, from wielding political power in this country. And in Africa, not just in Nigeria, unfortunately. That's what it is, really. But can we grow out of it? I think we can grow out of it. But it might probably take some time, some learning curves that we're probably going through now. And the consciousness of it, and awareness of it, which is also rife at the moment. But again, let's not also forget that the political parties themselves, we cannot necessarily do without them. We cannot necessarily do without the process that they are going through now. It is statutory, like we said earlier. It is one of the stages that INEC recommended, and of course, it's something that they've got to do to give the system a feeling of a major milestone, a major festival of democracy coming once again, which is the election that is due in another few months.
All right. Okay, Prof, let me just take this question or comment from one of our viewers, Wale Olanikbekun from Lagos. It says, good morning, gentlemen. APC convention reflected and symbolized a new dimension in our democratically mode of selecting leaders. The popularity of the candidate should have been tested by normal voting rather than consensus or nomination.
Well, that's an opinion, and it's a valid opinion. It speaks to the spirit of contestation that we're saying, which is also the hallmark of democracy, because it's from quality contestation that you can actually get the best. And we're not. That's not what happened, but that's what should ideally happen.
Okay.
But maybe the parties are just looking for peace. They're looking for a quick fix. But quick
fix.
fixes are not quality fixes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Victor.
All right. I hope we can take a minute with Hamza. Oh, I'm told we don't have any more left. All right. I wanted to take 1 minute with Hamza. My director has graciously given that 1 minute. Hamza, your closing remarks on this.
Oh, okay, thank you. I think my final words on this are going to be that we must, like Prof said, we must begin to shape our political parties to reflect our community ideologies, which is what is the missing link that we have right now. Political parties don't reflect what we want as a people. And so what we have right now is the survival of the strongest. The strongest of us who have the biggest war chest tend to be the ones to put people in place in political parties. And there should be a level of contestation amongst political parties, among contestants. So I'm hoping that going forward, yes, it's still a learning curve, but we're still wasting a lot of time learning. And I wonder when we're going to stop learning, because time is of the essence right now. We have a new generation of Nigerians who want to see that level of elections and in our political parties, and we're not seeing it. And I hope that in the next cycle of election, we are going to begin to see it.
Thank you very much, Hamza. I mean, when you learn and learn, you should show what you've learned. Thank you very much, Hamza Aliu, Executive Director, Initiative for Grassroots Advancement in Nigeria, INGRA. We thank you very much for your time and for your thoughts. Let me also thank here in the studio, Jide Ojo, our Public Affairs Analyst. We appreciate your contributions to the program. Oh, you doff in your heart. We doff ours too for you. And then Professor Abiodun Adeni, Professor of Mass Communication and Political Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a conversation that we'll have over and over as developments unfold. And that's it for this particular conversation. When we return, we'll be taking on what's going on in the humanitarian sector, talking about the One Poverty Response System, One Humanitarian. Join us again.
Evie, you look worried. What's going on?
My big cousin in the university might have to drop out of school. He can't afford his school fees.
Oh no, that's not fair. Wait!
What is it, Tomiwa?
I remember my dad talking about something called Nail Fund. He said it could help university students pay their school fees.
Nail Fund? What is that?
Hey, Captain Excellence! Do you also know about Nail Fund?
Absolutely, Tomiwa. Now Fund is a federal government initiative that aims to provide financial assistance to students pursuing higher education. Now Fund not only gives money for school fees, but even school allowances, called stipends. It's the government's way of keeping their promise that no child will be left behind.
Really? You mean this Tinubu government?
Yes, now. You see, Now Fund is a government loan that helps you pay for school, and you only start paying it back later, little by little.
Ha! It's a loan. Doesn't that mean my big cousin will be swimming in debt?
Not exactly. First, this loan comes with no interest. You only start paying back when you get a job. Even then, it will be just a tiny bit at a time.
My dad says it's just like what they do in other countries like America.
Wow, this is a great idea.
See? With a Now Fund, everyone can go to school even if you don't have money. Look at those smiles.
Wow, that's amazing. I am going to tell my big cousin right now.
Remember, Now Fund is here to help every young Nigerian get the education they deserve. No child should be left behind.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Are you ready? Join us on Reshaping Democracy, a groundbreaking program on the network service of the NTA, where citizens get the chance to ask ministers, heads of ministerial departments, agencies, and other top government officials questions on their performance and delivery of mandates. With no sector of limits, conversations build around bridging communication gaps for feedback and effect as our guests engage with the people they serve.
How does ND foster partnerships with organizations, government agencies, NGOs, among others?
As our leaders give account to citizens' inquiries on good governance, tune in to Reshaping Democracy, a creative concept coming up every Tuesday evening at 10:05 p.m.
This is Reshaping Democracy.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And our next conversation is on one humanitarian, one poverty response system. From available data, from more than 60% of Nigerians are living in what experts describe as multidimensional poverty, a reality that goes beyond income to include limited access to healthcare, education, and basic services.
And many analysts argue that this situation has been worsened by fragmentation, duplication of interventions, and limited coordination across social protection and humanitarian programs.
To address these gaps, the federal government has introduced the One Humanitarian and One Poverty Response System, an initiative designed to create a more coordinated, data-driven and impact-oriented approach to poverty reduction.
But what exactly does this new framework entail, and how will it differ from previous interventions?
And more importantly, how will it deliver measurable impact in the lives of Nigerians?
Well, these are some of the questions we'll be exploring in this segment.
And to help us understand the initiative better, we are now joined by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Dr. Bernard Doro. Honorable Minister, it's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, can you break it down for us what you mean by one humanitarian and one, the approach that you are taking towards it?
Just before I respond to your question, permit me just a minute to commiserate with the people of Plateau over the incidents that happened yesterday. I just want to call for calm and let us avoid rumors. Let's come together at this time to try and find solutions. And I believe that the relevant organs of government are looking into this. So please do not take matters into your hands and just avoid anything that will escalate this problem. Just to respond to your question directly, the One Humanitarian, One Poverty Response System is a new framework that is part of our flagship program to to try and create in our system a more coordinated approach, a more unified approach to dealing with humanitarian interventions in our country, and also poverty reduction action. Before now, what we see is there are a lot of fragmentation in the system. What is happening is, because of the nature of our poverty, just as you have stated earlier, it is multidimensional, and obviously to resolve that involve different organs. Different ministries are doing doing a bit to be able to help, and the development partners are also doing things to help as well, NGOs and what have you. So as a result, it created a lot of fragmentation and an inability to be able to approach things in synergy to have a clear impact in our desire to reduce poverty. So the one humanitarian, poverty response system is a backbone that is being used to sort of create that coordination framework.
So how is it different from the previous approach adopted by the government, like these social investment program and all that? How is it different from that?
So it is no different. So what we are doing is we want to provide social protection in a very intentional way. Like I said, we want to bring, so the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction is there as a coordinating ministry. So we develop policies and policies aimed at humanitarian intervention, and in addition to that, we are a coordinating ministry. So what we're trying to do is to ensure that we have visibility of the entire system. As stated earlier, you see, when you do things in a very fragmented way, sometimes it can lead to duplication. It can lead to waste of resources. You lack that clear framework from delivery to, you have an input to an output. So what we're trying to do is to provide a clear framework. And by the way, the one humanitarian, one poverty response system has several anchors. So it has several foundations, that we can, look into it as we go along. But it is not a different system. It is not creating a different program. It is a framework that just want to provide clarity in the system.
Providing clarity in the system means bridging the gap. That's what you mean. That's bridging the gap between intervention and approach. From what you have said, that's what I can deduce from it.
Okay. So here is it. When you provide any intervention, you want it to lead to an outcome. But measuring that outcome is very important. Now, if the interventions are being provided by different people without a very clear coordination to lead to an outcome, it creates a gap. And so you're putting in more into the system, but you are unable to measure whether that system is delivering anything at all. So a coordinated approach will help you so that you exactly know what is happening. You have clear visibility of what is happening, and an output is measured as well.
So what framework have you come up with now? You said you're coming up with framework. Oh, sorry, Victor, you wanted to ask a question?
Go ahead.
Okay, what framework have you come up with now?
Okay, so the framework is what we call the one humanitarian, one poverty response system. So that is a framework. Now, under this framework, you have, so the approach there under this framework is you have the governance aspect of it, where we want to ensure coordination in the system. And the second bit is where we want to unify our registries. So because at the moment, every intervention, everyone that is intervening has a different register that they use. So we want to bring all those registries together. We also want to create a data center where every intervention that is offered in our country is done with a clear visibility. So the data center connects everyone that is intervening in different areas. And in addition to that, we want to also bring a clear framework for poverty exit. So the framework that we're introducing connects humanitarian intervention with a clear framework. So say, for example, there is a crisis and you offer a one-off, type help, assistance. So we want to then connect that to a clear poverty exit. So you want to have a framework where you can track the individual out of poverty. So it's not just meeting a poor person and helping them with a one-off assistance. When you do that, you then be able to find a way of offering training to that individual and track them through support, mentorship, and providing them with startup seeds, for example, access to finance until they're able to, to get out of poverty, exit them out of poverty. So these are some of the elements to the one poverty, one humanitarian, one poverty response system.
Now, you've mentioned fragmentation and duplication. So how will this new system practically eliminate those challenges? For instance, how do you intend to identify beneficiaries? How do you intend to verify them and track them in practice?
Okay, so I did mention registries earlier on. So we have the National Social Register, and this is a register of vulnerable household. We have 19.7 million vulnerable household in the register, and this is expanding. And so we use the register as a targeting tool. So in that register, you are able to, depending on how you design your intervention, you use that register to target beneficiaries. And from that register, you create a benefit register. And so your intervention then directly, so the benefit register contain those who qualify based on the criteria that you have designed. And so you target your intervention to those in the benefit register. And so from them you track them until you exit them out of poverty. So we use the National Social Register as the targeting tool.
Okay. Does the system, does it integrate the existing programs like cash transfers, food support, and livelihood schemes?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, it's not a new program. We are not creating anything new.
It's just approach.
What we're doing is that we're changing in our approach, and we want to do things in a way that you can have a clear entry point and an exit point. So offering people support without a proper framework to help them exit their poverty does not give us anything to measure.
What about transparency and accountability? Because this has been a major challenge for the programs of the humanitarian for that ministry.
So like I said, we use the National Social Register as a targeting tool, and that is linked to digital payment systems, which we use. So for transparency, the digital approach helps us. So using digital registries and also digital payment systems, for example, cash transfers, conditional cash transfers, we know that it goes directly. Mind you, the National Social Register that we're talking about, it's a robust document. That document is validated by the national identification number. Yeah. So it's not just going to the communities to collect this data, because the data is collected in conjunction with the local governments, the communities, the state governments. So That data is then validated using the bank verification number and also the national identification number. So it's quite a robust process that ensures that the name we have in the register is actually the name of a real and actual person. Mind you that it is also geotagged to the communities themselves. So you can trace the individual in the register to the very community that they live in.
Which means that you are carrying the community leaders along in this process, in this your tracking process.
Definitely, because like I said, it is a product of community engagement.
Okay.
So you designed the questions in a way that captures people socio-economic data. And then you geotag it to target to where they live. And so the local government is involved, the state government is involved, and the actual communities are also involved.
Now, looking at this program, is this initiative in alignment with the president's mandate of, lifting 50 million Nigerians out of poverty?
Yes, the president, the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President has very clear mandate to lift millions out of poverty. And so we need to find a way, a system that is able to track and tell us how many we have actually lifted out of poverty. That's where the one humanitarian, one poverty response system comes into place, because in there is a framework for poverty graduation. And when you graduate people, so you use the registries that are available and you track the individual. So you know the journey of each individual. That helps us to then be able to capture that gap that we had, where you offer people intervention, you train them, upskill them, provide them with some capital, and then you don't know what happened to them. So the new framework is going to help us to be able to keep track of these individuals, because eventually we put them in a growth register. And so we're able to say, over this time, this is how many people that we've been able to lift.
And that's what I would like to ask you. How many people will exit poverty under this new system? What are the timelines? Say in the next 1 year, how many people should exit poverty?
Okay, so these are frameworks we're developing. It will be very difficult to tell you that in the next
no projections, at least an idea.
Like you said, the president's mandate is clear: lift millions out of poverty, and that is what we intend to do. Sometimes you get into numbers, then it becomes a little bit tricky.
Okay, let me find out, because you talked about the issue of register now. How is the government fixing exclusion errors in the social register so that the poorest aren't missed?
So involving the communities is one way, because within every community, you see the definition of poverty can differ depending on context. And so every community are able to identify who is poor amongst them. The data that we use, or the different criteria that we use in order to be able to identify this individual, ask them questions around, what they've got in their home, their income, have they got a car, and all of these, questions help you to be able to establish. But in addition, the community are able to help you identify the poor amongst them. So we use combination of methods to be able to identify the poor. And the register is expanding. And so if anybody is excluded, you go back. As we expand the register, we're able to capture those individuals.
Are you creating awareness at the local level concerning this initiative?
Sorry, if you can come back again.
I mean, I'm talking about creating awareness now. The necessary awareness, especially in the hard-to-reach communities. How do you get there?
Yeah, definitely, because our intention is to reach the poorest of the poor, and we have enumerators, all over that help us to get to the most difficult places, and we'll continue to push. We've not captured every Nigerian in the National Social Register, but our desire is to continue to expand it. It is a robust process, and this costs a lot as well. But with our development partners helping us, we're able to penetrate and ensure that the register has the actual progress that we are looking for.
What happens if this, I mean, we wish you well, we wish, you know, that the program succeeds, but what happens if this system fails to deliver, if it fails to meet expectations?
We are quite confident that we've been able to diagnose the problem correctly. And with every program, you review, you make amendments, and then you reach out. Things that need to be amended will be amended, and continue to work with different stakeholders to ensure that the program meets its needs.
So at what point should Nigerians hold this initiative accountable? 6 months, 1 year, when we can say, okay, is it able to deliver or not?
So it's a process. Like we said last week, we held a technical session with development partners at the UN House to subject this initiative to technical expertise, and unanimously we agreed to adopt this. Now, there's a process. It is not that after adoption that is all. We need to subject this to the relevant legal framework that is needed before we start implementation. So there's a lot of work to do. It is not as if we have finished and implemented the program today. So what we are doing is, obviously, we'll need things like Federal Executive Council approval and all what have you. So it's a process ongoing. And as we go along, we're going to bring experts to also help us to look into the different aspects properly. But we believe that when the work is completed, it will achieve its intended objectives.
Okay, for the work to achieve its intended objectives, some of the frontline workers say verification is actually the bottleneck. And what's one rule that you will scrap to speed up payments without worsening the fraud?
So verification itself, so if you take the National Social Register, for example, it's important to ensure that verification is done, because when you are having intervention, at the back of your mind, you want intervention to reach the intended beneficiary. And so to be able to achieve that and to remove fraud from the system, you have to make sure that verification is done. And that is why NASCO, which is the one in charge of the National Social Register within the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, is working hand in hand with the NIMSI and also relevant bodies to ensure that the system is sped up and that they're able to increase the speed of verification. Because it's important. It's not a step that you will want to bypass, because the President has given a very clear direction on that. He wants every Nigerian captured in the national identification number, and that is what we also use to validate the register that we have, just to make sure that we are actually dealing with real humans and those that are actually affected.
What funding model? What funding model? Because finance becomes important, bearing in mind that Empower beneficiaries are still owed a backlog. So what funding model sustains this system without overburdening public finances?
So yeah, we are looking at different aspects of funding. We will be looking at a pooled financing model. We also, obviously, the government will create that budget, that will continue with that budget line. We'll get support from development partners. We're looking at also private sector initiatives. Recently in Lagos, for example, we had a program where we invited the private sector to come together to look at private solutions, contributing to looking after the IDPs, for example, which was a very successful interaction, and we hope to build on that going forward. We are also looking at trust fund, humanitarian and poverty reduction trust funds, where we bring private sectors together with government to look at ways to raise money, because the situation is huge, and we desire that everybody play their own part to raise fund finances that will help us to achieve our mandate.
All right. Minister, Honorable Minister, we have this question from Garko Karu side from Abuja. Now, he says, good morning, presenters and our guests in the studio. I have two questions for the Honorable Minister. That's concerning social register. Who are actually controlling these social register, and how can the poor masses trace or get to where they can be registered?
Okay, so the register is controlled or managed by NASCO, which is a program under our INSIPA, which is the National Social Investment Program Agency, supervised by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. We are continuing to expand the register, and it is done through states. So what NASCO does is to collect the different registers that are done from the state level. So poor and vulnerable Nigerians will be accessed. Like I said, the process involves interaction with community. With the communities. So NASCO is continually working with the communities to identify the poorest of the poor, and then you graduate the process. So if you are among, or you fulfill the criteria for the poorest of the poor, you'll be captured, because we're continually expanding the register.
How do you intend, to avoid the pitfalls that limited the impact of previous programs, so that this doesn't go the way of the ones before it?
So, yeah, we continue to do a risk assessment. We continue to, as we implement different stages of the program, we're ensuring that any lessons learned is plugged back into the system. So, like I said, you can't just foolproof everything, but you can look at improvement over time. But we believe that we have correctly diagnosed the problem, and we believe that implementation will get us to where we intend to reach.
Okay, this one is from Mohammed Isa from Kotamfe, Kogi State. It says, with the increasing overlap between humanitarian crisis and chronic poverty in Nigeria, how can the government design a unified one humanitarian, one poverty response system that ensures timely emergency relief while also delivering long-term economic empowerment without duplication of efforts or corruption?
So that's exactly what the framework intends to achieve. As mentioned earlier, we usually in the development world, you have humanitarian, and then you have a clear development. The one humanitarian, one poverty response system bring this together. Our philosophy is such that the humanitarian assistance should be linked to a broader graduation pathway. So once you are offered, for any reason, crisis, man-made or natural disasters affects you, you are included in the benefit register, helped with, say, cash transfer to give you, to create stability.
Okay.
So once that is done, you are tracked then immediately, without any break, into a framework that help you to get back on your feet. That is exactly what the framework is curing. We don't want to just offer you one-off assistance and then a break and probably lose you along the way. So the framework ensures that you're tracked within the process.
As we wrap up this conversation, I mean, what is there a role in there in terms of implementation for states and local governments?
Definitely. So what we are doing is, if you notice with the economic reforms of Mr. President, there's much funds going to the subnationals. And so we're creating that synergy. One of the key areas of emphasis since I came in has been to try and get the subnationals to collaborate in order to reach out to those in need. Every humanitarian crisis, every poverty happens within the context of a locality. It happens within the states, it happens within the local government. To this end, we created, I think we had a dialogue with the states in somewhere in December, early January actually. We invited the states and had a dialogue where we wanted to encourage greater ownership of the entire process. And following with that, we had the first National Council on Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, where we brought together the 36 states, commissioners in charge of social development or poverty alleviation, to start a discussion. By the way, the council is going to be the highest policy advisory in the ecosystem of humanitarian and poverty reduction. So we believe that if everyone is participating to agree on policy, then we own the process. So both subnational and the national government will own the process, ensuring that we reach out to our most vulnerable communities.
All right, Honorable Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Dr. Bernard Doro, we appreciate your time and clarifications made on the program.
Thank you very much.
And that does it for us on Good Morning Nigeria this Monday. Of course, the program is here again tomorrow. We hope you join us again. I'm Victor, so have a great day.
And I'm Ademola. You do have a fabulous day.